You know, in this league, you're going to face a lot of different challenges, and I think playing against Cincinnati on Saturday, they have strengths where we have our greatest weaknesses. I mean, they're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, and obviously against TCU we struggled, was a big part of our loss. And so just starting off with it, Coach Miller's doing a fantastic job. Life on the road's difficult in this league. Everybody knows that, but coming home and playing at home, we've got to play our best, and we've got to be more physical and rebounding, and this will be one of the greatest tests we'll face all year long. That exposes that weakness. They do have. I like their roster. I mean, I like their upside. I think this is a team in our league that will keep getting better over the course of the season. They got great size, and they got great athletes in space, and they're physical at attacking the rim. So just doing a great job on personnel and rebounding will be a big deal in order to win this one.
Coach, I think we kind of saw against TCU the depth inside when Warren and Kerwin got into foul trouble was probably one of the weaknesses, along with the rebounding. What did you see in that game that needs to improve if and when some of your bigger players get in foul trouble?
Yeah, I mean, more specifically, Darian Williams, as much as Kerwin. But, you know, I think that's where we're a work in progress with our team is how do we handle foul trouble? How do we manage the game when we get in situations where we've got to go deep into our bench? I've got to do a better job as a coach just making sure not only do we know what we're doing defensively, but what we're doing offensively to take advantage of other teams' weaknesses. I mean, a real strong part of our team is not just shooting the basketball, but putting guys in position that we want to score offensively. So I just got to keep getting better and helping our guys understand what we do when we get in foul trouble and we go to our bench and we're playing different lineups.
And Cincinnati plays a lot of close games. They haven't won a lot of those games, but they seem like they're in every single one. You guys are the same way, but have won a lot of those, 5, 10-point games. What gives you an edge in those close games down the stretch?
Yeah, when you look at our roster and you look at our team, we've got guys that make free throws. And anytime you have point guards that make free throws, you put yourself in position. You get to the end of the games, and how do you close games and how do you win close games? Making free throws is a big deal. So not only do we do that, but I think we've limited our turnovers at the end of games. And that's where we've gotten better, and that's where we took a step back against TCU. I thought we did a good job of closing the gap, but probably took a couple of too difficult a shot at times where we could maybe have gotten a better one. And that's where our team is growing, and that's where we keep getting better.
Coach, looking at Cincinnati, part of it's injuries too, but they play so many guys. I mean, they have about 9, 10 guys that they can really just rotate through. What is that like for your team having to combat that, given you play a little bit of a shorter lineup?
Well, I think it just highlights the fact that you need to know personnel. And like how prepared are you going into games? And when teams have a deeper roster, was that Pac-Man? What was that? It wasn't Pac-Man. Was it Mario? Was that a Mario? Was that a Mario? Okay, good. But I think the key to what we're doing really is how well can we be prepared and know team's personnel? And when you go that deep in a roster in a short turnaround, especially, it makes it a little more difficult. But when you have 3 days to get ready, I think there's better understanding on the teams that play more people. Because let's be honest, like the more you know your team's strengths and weaknesses, the better your defense can be. And when you have a team like ours that may not be able to physically overpower you, you got to make the right decisions on how you're defending people.
In the earlier non-conference, you talked about the importance of your guys if they get off to a slow start in the season, not to let that affect them throughout the season. I think Chance is a really good example of that. I mean, he's only really come on even stronger. He's so much more comfortable just off the ball, putting the ball on the floor. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, Chance McMillan's a joy to coach, man. He's such a great guy to be around every day. I love him. There's a play that happened in the TCU game, and what I love about coaching our team and Chance specifically is sometimes when you mess up in life and when you mess up, there's shame associated with it and embarrassment, right? You kind of just tuck your head, and sometimes that can take you longer to recover, and you take steps backwards first. And what I love about Chance is he's got a ownership to it immediately, but he doesn't look discouraged. I think he can. PV drove him baseline and just bullied him to the basket and laid it up, and he just comes running down the sideline. And part of it, you wonders if he knows it happened, even though you know he knows it happened. He's just like, I know, Coach, I got to be better. I know, Coach, I got to be better. It's just he's got such a joy to the way he responds to adversity, and it's to his family's credit and to his credit. And I think it's what's going to allow him to be such a great player here, and as he is a great player. But I think his ability to learn and grow really is attributed to his joy to want to improve every day.
Coach, what's the biggest strength for your team that Cincinnati is going to have the biggest challenge to overcome?
I think anytime you look at our team, you look at our ability to shoot the three-point, to make threes. And when you make threes at the rate you do, then I think you can open up drive lanes and give people opportunities like Warren to make decisions in space, and makes decision makers' jobs, allow more space to it. But I can tell you, they got a physical team. They're really aggressive defensively. And to your point earlier, I mean, they're in every game they play, and they do it because they play so hard and they play connected. So I think, obviously teams have to prepare for us shooting the ball well, and the teams that take us out of that do a good job.
With that being said, with your team doing what it has to do to win, what's the one thing that if it's not rebounding, what's the one thing that you need to make sure that this team does so it will put themselves in the best position to win on Saturday? Yeah,
outside of rebounding, I think our ball screen coverages in the middle of the floor, we've got to make sure that teams aren't as comfortable as they've been in some scenarios. I think we've given some angles and some drive lanes up where we need to apply more physicality to the ball in those ball screen coverages.
Coach, with Joe coming off the game where he has 8 turnovers, but he also has equal amount of assists, I guess facing another long and aggressive team on defense, how do you get him to, take care of the ball a little bit better and maybe, distribute the same amount?
Yeah, actually, I loved what Joe did going back and watching it on film against TCU a majority of the game. And a couple of his turnovers were more about what other people weren't doing exactly what we wanted, and I thought he made the right decision. It just didn't connect the way we wanted it to. So I don't think a lot of it's decision making. I think his decision making is actually improving. Maybe how do we keep improving our whole team in regards to what we're looking at? And I think Joe's balance is how do we keep him aggressive where he's still thinking score? Because, that part where you start to feel the bottle up, you have a tendency just to look where you're going to pass it all the time. And he's such a great player at getting fouled. I think that's where he's struggling, is he's been trying to draw fouls as opposed to make shots. And then he's trying to pass as opposed to think score. And so I think you can get discouraged in this league when maybe you feel like you're getting fouled some and it's not what's happening in the game. So finding that toughness and that grit to withstand, the difficulties of the physicality of this league. And he's played a lot in this league, but he hasn't played to this extent, this amount of minutes, with this amount of time with the ball in his hands. So it's still a growing curve for him. And it's not to say he's not capable of it. I think he's going to show as we keep playing. We're only a third of the way through the league. Feels like we're more, but we're not. I mean, I think with 12 games left in this league, you're going to see him continue to improve. I guess not 11 left now, but yeah.
And I haven't really watched a ton of Cincinnati offensively, but they have a lot of length. And I guess how do they attack you on defense, and what do you have to, shore up this week?
Yeah, I think they keep bringing people at you, and they do play the game in a physical nature. So just making sure that we've got good spacing around it and it simplifies the reads. I mean, a lot of times in spacing you can squeeze those ball screens with guys that are open, but their defenders are closing gaps. So I think good spacing against them is going to be key.
Chance got hobbled there at the end of TCU. Is that anything to kind of keep an eye on you're monitoring right now?
Yeah, good question. He responded really well to treatment and would anticipate Chance being 100% for this one.
He's had a few games for you, but and is Robert kind of like a quiet, important piece for you guys, especially because you don't have so much height to kind of throw at a team like Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I talked to the staff about when we got back. And how do we help not just Rob Jennings improve, because he's gotten better. And I thought that game, he had a couple things go wrong, which kind of dominoed into a few other things that I think he was trying extremely hard. And sometimes you get in games where you're trying not to mess up and you mess up more. And I think that's just what happened with Rob in the game. But his heart is to win and to get better. And that's what I challenged, not just Rob, but our whole staff and myself, is like, how do we keep growing the guys that are on the bench? Because I do think somebody on that bench that's maybe not playing right now is going to end up impacting us. And these guys are working, they're getting better, but they're not quite ready for what we need to do in the games. And I do think we're moving that direction, and Rob being one of the guys that keeps improving.